Chapter 8, Admission Test. The sun was rising, coloring the sky with beautiful shades, promising to bring a day with bright weather. Hui Yu was looking out the window and enjoying the breathtaking scenery while feeling happiness within. No matter where he was, a sunrise would always be beautiful. He was in a city for the first time in 10 years. However, this city was nothing like his old multicultural and technological world, so for him, everything was new. Looking at the sunset made him think about the previous day where they had arrived. The wrong entourage had arrived the previous day, and moved through the city. On the way Hui Yu had seen a number of shops and stalls all around, and even marketplaces that seemed to be owned by the different noble families within the city. However, Hui Yu did not manage to have a good look at anything as they traveled rather quickly. Everyone within the city made space on the populated roads to allow for the city lord's guards and the wrong twins to pass through undisturbed. Arriving at the city lord's mansion shocked Hui Yu quite a bit. His mansion was styled very much like a Chinese palace. It was big with multiple buildings, where some were surrounded by walls, others by moats. Some of the buildings were one storage, while others were towers, and even 4 pagodas could be seen within the outer wall. As soon as they passed through the gate, Hui Yu noticed that each of the buildings had their own courtyard. Some of them seemed to be small businesses while others were residential areas. Between these different kinds of buildings were beautiful gardens and elaborate statues. In the middle of the palace was a big building that was erected on a hill with hundreds of steps leading up to the entrance. It looked incredibly similar to the Hall of Supreme Harmony that Hui Yu had seen in the Forbidden City. The few differences were that this building had been erected on a hill at least double as tall as the Hall of Supreme Harmony, but the building itself was not as big. "That is the city office," Bu Huang explained. "It is the place where everything that has to do with the city is decided." Hui Yu nodded. It was obvious that a city had an insane amount of land under its protection, and it would definitely need quite a large hall to house every scholar and government official that worked for the city. Bu Huang, Rongming and Rongxing were heading for another gate. They called it the Donghua Gate, and it was heavily guarded by Duke-ranked experts. Behind this gate was the city lord's personal living quarters, but even so, it was bigger than what Hui Yu could ever have expected. The city guards that had followed the entourage on the trip were left outside the Donghua Gate, and headed towards the barracks where they had been given a few days of rest. Bu Huang, Rongming, Rongxing and Hui Yu continued forward together, moving to a corner of the residence where the city lord's stables were erected. On the way there, Hui Yu was placed on the ground and told to stay behind so that he did not shock the other magical animals within the stables, and he did as he was told, while admiring the beautiful surroundings. He felt as if he had been traveling back in time. "This style has been in this world for thousands of years," Lan Feng said with a silent voice, only daring to speak now that they were alone. "The reason it has become popular in your world is most likely because an expert visited this plane and returned home with the designs, or the other way around." "You can travel between the worlds?" Hui Yu asked, shocked. "This would definitely be amazing." "Yeah," Lan Feng answered as if it was common knowledge. "If you are strong enough, then you can create your own path between the different planes. Because of that you will see a lot of different styles and cultures all over the different planes. Everyone steals their ideas from other places." Hui Yu nodded. He knew how every part of Earth itself had different designs and styles depending on where they went. "When you become an expert your lifespan increases. The stronger you get the longer you can live. When you become a god you can live for an eternity if that is what you want." Lan Feng continued, "Imagine living out eternity in one place. That is really no fun. After a couple of thousand years you ought to have seen every little stone of your home plane. Then most experts will travel to other planes." Hui Yu furrowed his brows. "Earlier you said that there were only 4 gods, the 4 divine beasts. How can there have been other gods then?" he asked questioningly. "I have only seen 4 gods," Lan Feng explained, "and while I lived on this plane only 4 gods had ever existed here. But there are so many planes in the world and gods are able to create planes if they wish for it to happen. This plane is considered a very young plane and it is around the same age as the one you came from." This knowledge shocked Hui Yu, as he did not consider millions of years to be young, but before he commented Lan Feng continued, "It is obvious that so many planes will create an insane amount of experts. Not even I know how many gods there are or where they live. If I were to travel around outside of this place, I would be considered a weakling, even though I am a saint." Hui Yu could not help but gulp as he was shocked by the knowledge he had been provided fault with. "Don't worry too much about it," Lan Feng sighed while quickly slipping back into the cheek cave as he saw Bu Huang and the twins come closer. "When you reach God rank we will go grab your girlfriend's soul and you two can go tour the different planes as much as you want." His voice became quieter and quieter as he descended into the dungeon and hid himself once again. The Rong twins were both much older now than they had been when they first met each other, and their maturity had changed greatly, but even those two youths were grinning shamelessly and laughing while dragging the young Hui Yu around, showing their favorite places within the gardens to him. It was long past dinner time before they finally reached the main house where Lord Zhongliang himself resided and hurried into the dining room where an extravagant feast was ready for the three youngsters. Lord Zhongliang was waiting for them and quickly greeted the three children before he and Bu Huang moved into another room where they had some issues that needed counseling. Hui Yu looked at the table and saw so many different foods that he had never seen before. Some were shellfish, while others were meat of unknown origin. There were salads and sauces, vegetables and stews. Different types of soups and breads. It was the biggest feast that Hui Yu had ever seen. "Don't be too nervous about tomorrow," Rong Ming said while waving around something that looked a lot like a chicken drumstick. "Your cultivation is high enough for you to join the academy, and we will go with you to make sure that everything is fair," he continued with a smile, before tearing half of the meat off the bone, and chewing it with delight. "I hope it is not Elder Wang that at dealing with the admission test," Rong Xing said with a quiet voice, and Hui Yu looked at her questioningly. "He does not like commoners," she explained, "so he sometimes cheats a little on the test to make sure that they don't get into the academy. But don't worry," Rong Ming assured, while still gobbling on his food, "we will make sure that no one cheats when it is your turn." Rong Xing gave a determined nod, showing that she too agreed upon this. "When you get accepted, just stick to us at the start," Rong Ming continued. "We will make sure you get to your classes at the right time and the right place. And with us around, no one will even think about bullying you." He had a big smile on his face, and quickly grabbed something that looked like mashed vegetables and handed it to Hui Yu. "Try this, it tastes really good," he said with a mouthful of food. The three children spent the rest of the evening eating the food on the table, but no matter how hard they tried, it was impossible to eat it all. Eventually it had turned completely black outside and Zhang Xing led Hui Yu towards a small two-story house with a personal courtyard that was placed close to the wall surrounding the residential area of the city lord. "Stay here tonight," she said with a smile and clapped her hands, causing crystals to light up all over the building, both inside and outside. "We will come and pick you up tomorrow," she said before wishing Hui Yu a good night and turned around, walking towards her own home. Although Hui Yu had tried to fall asleep, it had been impossible as he kept worrying about what was going to happen the following day. The admission test was incredibly important for him as he needed the extra help from the academy to quickly get past the student rank. However, if anyone from the academy noticed Lan Feng, then he would be in trouble. Bu Huang is a 5-star king ranked expert and Rong Liang is 9-star king ranked. They both know that you hide something, but they have been very considerate so far. Don't expect to find other considerate people," Lan Feng warned, and Hui Yu nodded at the warning. "If we see anyone else who has unlocked the upper dungeon, then we need to scram," the Blue Phoenix continued, and in the end the two of them ended up spending the night planning a number of escape plans in case they were noticed. Before they realized, they saw that the sunrise was painting the beautiful sky in a warm light. Had he still been in the village, then he would already be on the hillside by now, looking after the goats, but although it was only 2 days since he had last done his chores, it already felt as if it had been a completely different world. Being in Ruo City was like moving within a dream. Everything he looked at was so familiar, but at the same time so foreign. He had seen chickens, which made him feel familiarity, but as soon as he looked closer he noticed a horn on their heads and a scaled tail behind. Even if things seemed familiar, there was always something else hidden beneath. Hui Yu spent the morning cultivating while listening to the tranquil sounds. Hui Yu had expected the city to be bursting with sounds, however the city mansion was so big, and the city lord's residence was located so far away from the busy city that the sounds couldn't reach them. At first, the only thing that Hui Yu did hear, was the sound of guards that would casually talk together while switching from one shift to another, but slowly the mansion woke up. Servants were rushing back and forth to ensure that everyone had their breakfast and necessities ready for yet another morning. Scholars was soon running around picking up scripts and scrolls for their teachers to be ready for another busy day at an office, and suddenly the whole mansion was filled with life and energy, much like any other day would have been. A servant arrived at Hui Yu's courtyard and brought an invitation to eat breakfast together with the Wang family, which Hui Yu quickly accepted. However, as soon as he entered the dining room, he halted slightly as he noticed that Zhang Liang and Bu Huang both were present. The young white-haired boy quickly cupped his hands and did a slight bow towards the two adult men, which both responded with a gentle nod, before they engaged in conversation once again. The Wang twins and Hui Yu ate a hearty breakfast filled with fruits and yogurt, cured meat and bread together with some kind of milk and fresh pressed juice. Hui Yu could not help but be shocked upon seeing the insane amount of food that was created for each meal. "Don't worry, the leftovers from the buffet always goes to the martial arts schools that Dad manages," Rong Ming said proudly, upon noticing Hui Yu's judging look, All kids below 10 years old can go to the martial arts school and learn how to cultivate, and then they get a meal every time they show up, Rongxing explained. Dad wants to help them learn how to cultivate so they can help their family earn money instead of being poor. But Elder Wang hates the martial arts school, Rongming whispered. There is a lot of the poor commoners who gets the right to join the Royal Academy because of them, and he thinks it is stupid to teach martial art to commoners instead of ruling over them. Hu Yu understood that this was not a subject to talk about while at school, but he instantly felt more positive towards the dawning Lord Rongliang. It is because Elder Wang's family is a part of the Great Hundred Names, Rongming complained. However, he still kept his voice low enough for the two discussing adults to not hear what was said. At least he was convinced of that. Rongxing sighed. Her twin brother kept saying things which Hu Yu had no idea of understanding, so she once again took the role of the translator. The Great Hundred Names are 100 families who can follow their ancestry all the way back to the Dark Age. It is only 100 noble families that survived whatever happened back then. They are in all 3 allied countries, so it is quite astonishing to be from one of the Great Hundred Names families. Hu Yu nodded. It meant that their family history was at least 4,000 years old. It was indeed quite a history for any noble family, and he imprinted the name Wang in his heart, ensuring that he needed much more caution whenever he was going to deal with those people. The meal was quickly eaten while Rongming was busy telling Hu Yu about some of his friends at the Royal Academy. Hu Yu had worn some of his usual clothes today, and although it was worn out, it was incredibly comfortable. However, a maid quickly brought his new white set of clothes to him. It had been cleaned during the night, and the Rong twins both wanted him to wear the white clothes. They wanted to show off their friend's beauty. With a sigh, Hu Yu followed their suggestions and quickly changed into his most beautiful piece of clothing. Hopefully they could convince the notorious Elder Wang that Hu Yu was a person fit to study at the Royal Academy. Outside the city lord's mansion was a carriage waiting for them. It was being pulled by 4 Kirins. They were related to Kylans, however they were much more elegant. Where the Kylan was like a horse and dragon mixed together, the Kirin was more a deer mixed with a dragon. It was gracious and elegant while the lean muscles were bulging underneath the scaled skin. The Royal Academy is located on a mountain range behind the city, Rongxing explained. It is not too far away, but we are expected to ride a carriage when we travel from the city to the academy. The travel through Riluo City was much like the previous day where Hu Yu did not have the time to see anything in detail, but he comforted himself with the fact that he had no money to entertain himself with. Cities were only fun for the rich people. The travel to the Royal Academy really did not take long. As soon as the carriage exited the city walls, they gained in speed and almost flew towards a distant mountain. With the Kirins pulling the carriage, it only took them half an hour to reach the destination. The carriage stopped right at the foot of the mountain where large fields were filled with young children and their entourages. Some of the children had come in groups and looked poor, which caused Hu Yu to assume that they were the commoners that Elder Wang was supposed to dislike, while other children were bringing a wide array of experts and servants with them to the examination. There were 7 elderly figures apart from these children and their entourages, and they were positioned in a straight line in front of the mountain entrance. There was exactly 3 meters between each of the elders, and in front of them were a small table. On the table was a book, a pen and a white stone slab. In front of the elders were a queue of around 10 children. One child at a time went towards the elder and stated their name and age, then the elder ordered them to lay their hand upon the stone slab, before they themselves inserted some of their chi to activate the slab, making it write down the child's real age and cultivation rank. Hu Yu furrowed his brows slightly, as the highest ranked of those elders was a 4-star duke, where the others were 9-star grandmasters. None of these elders would be capable of detecting Lanfeng. Their skilled experts must be hiding within the academy, Lanfeng said with slight relief visible in the voice. Oh no, whispered Rongming next to Hu Yu, who had been busy worrying about being noticed. Elder Wang is here. Let's go queue up over here, he continued and grabbed Hu Yu's arm while dragging him towards one of the elders all the way to the side. Hu Yu was confused. Elder Wang was supposed to have a high standing within this academy, however none of the experts here were any real threat to Hu Yu and Lanfeng. Suddenly a thought hit Hu Yu, and he narrowed his eyes slightly while asking, what rank are the teachers at the academy? Most of them are grandmasters. A few are masters and we have a couple of duke-ranked experts, Rongxing answered after thinking for a bit. Hu Yu felt relief washing over him, as he had realized why. This was after all only the outer disciples. The students here all depended on the lower Danshan to train, while the students who had already opened the middle Danshan would be moved to the main Royal Academy within the capital city. It made perfect sense that any instructor or teacher with a higher cultivation would teach the higher-ranked students. And now, it did not seem as if Lanfeng and Hu Yu would have any problems while moving around at the academy. Hu Yu was in a great mood when he stood in the queue, waiting for his turn to be tested. The Rong twins were standing next to him, and although they were already students and allowed to enter the Royal Academy already, they would not go before Hu Yu had been accepted. The two children of the city lord who stood next to the unknown beautiful kid did cause quite a commotion, and many noble families started guessing as to what the heritage of this unknown child could be. Neither Hu Yu nor the twins had any interest in the gossip that was going around, as all three knew that his origin was to be kept a secret, and as soon as it was their turn, Hu Yu strode towards the elder with a calm radiating from within that was unlikely anyone his age. "What is your name?" the elder asked with a friendly voice. This child was after all being guided by two students of high profile. "Hu Yu," was the clear answer. "Place your hand on the stone slab," the elder ordered, and Hu Yu did as he was told. A second later, the elder placed a finger on the same stone slab and allowed some of his chi to pull out a bit of Hu Yu's chi from within his body. Suddenly letters appeared on the surface and Hu Yu removed his hand. 5-star student rank. Boy age 10. The elder said with a mumbling voice while recording the result within the book on the table. He opened a bag and pulled out an emblem. The emblem was small and shaped as a pentagon. Printed on the emblem was 5 flower petals that surrounded a sun in the middle. "Here you go," the elder said while handing the emblem to the child in front of him. "Keep this for the years you study at our academy. Make sure to keep it safe." With a wave of his hand, the elder moved his attention towards the next child in line for the admission test, and Hu Yu quickly moved forward, following the Rong twins towards the entrance leading up the mountain. The entrance was simple. The three children moved through a stone pavilion, and Hu Yu noticed how his student emblem started shining as soon as he entered, but nothing else happened, and as soon as they had walked through, the weird shine had vanished. "It is a key," Rongxing explained. "Only the ones who has an emblem that belongs to the Royal Academy can enter the academy grounds." The Rong twins found their own emblems. Both looked identical to Hu Yu's. "A golden one shows that you are an inner disciple from the Royal Academy in the capital. The teachers and instructors all have white symbols," Rongxing continued to explain. "This is the worst part of the academy," Rongming said with a sigh, while looking in front of him, and Hu Yu moved his gaze towards the front, only to see endless stone steps leading towards the mountain top. The three children smiled to each other before they slowly started moving up, one step at a time. It has to be said that they were all cultivators, so it required quite a bit for those three children to be tired, but Rongming was often bored, and he had had enough after half an hour of climbing the stairs. "We got a lot of friends at the academy, and I am sure that they will like you too," he started while looking disapproving at the many steps in front of him. "Quite a few of them are commoners, but your family background does not matter if you are strong, that is what father always taught us. I usually hang around with Jia Yan, Ma Kong, and Ding Wu," he continued while the three climbed one step after another. "Jia Yan's family is really poor, but his talent is as good as mine and Xinger's. Dad asked us to look after him at the start, and he is a really good guy. Most of the commoners at the academy look up to him. Ma Kong is from the Ma family. They are nobles, but they gained nobility quite recently, so most of the other nobles looks down upon them, and then Ding Wu. He is a weirdo. The Ding family is one of the great 100 names, but Ding Wu is such a skirt chaser. He followed us from the start because he fell for Xinger." After getting a quick explanation of the different friends' family backgrounds, they had arrived at the top of the stair, and Hu Yu sucked in a deep breath. This was supposed to be a mountain top, but instead it was a city buzzing with youngsters everywhere. Every mountain top had been connected with long bridges, and there were flying magical beasts hovering around, waiting for their masters. 4 of the mountain tops were filled with small houses, counting at least 1,000 on each, which Rongxing explained to be dormitories. Each student had their own room. There was also a cafeteria placed on each mountain top that would offer food 3 times a day free of charge. These 4 mountain tops were all to the left from the staircase, while the right side was filled with tall buildings. Each building had different nameplates pasted upon. One said Martial Arts Skill Hall, while another said Chi Theory Lessons, yet another said Cultivation Methods. Several mountaintops had been completely flattened and changed into training grounds, and yet again others were changed into fighting arenas. Right in front of Hu Yu was a big pagoda, which was the Royal Academy main building. It housed the most important martial arts skills, and all the instructors and teachers lived within. Everywhere Hu Yu looked he saw students. Some were young and scared, while moving around in groups, while others were older and much more comfortable while traveling with a certain feel of belonging. This was the new place for Hu Yu to live, and he could feel joy bubbling inside. A whole new world was waiting for him, just waiting to be explored. "Rongming!" A voice called from the side, and Hu Yu turned around to see a youngster rushing towards them.